Hello again, YouTubers, or fellow YouTubers, or fellowette YouTubers. Siphonik here. Another tutorial today. I'm going to be showing you some relatively complex formulas. Get some nice interesting effects. I'll show you the 3 different types of formula tools you can use, and how you can manipulate them to get these sort of effects you can see on screen right now. They've all been made, apart from the last one, using just primitives really. I'll show you some of the basic scene setups. Now I've got some open here, so I'll go to the first one. Doesn't look like a great deal. My computer's going to be quite slow here, so I do apologise for that, but I have pre-rendered the animation off for you, which we can see down here. We'll go to the first one. See, that's just that simple effect with a light behind it. It's that same thing without the light. That's just using the default render light. Now we've got this. We'll pause that because that's a different window. So if we go down to here, that's made up using just these tools here. It's fully animatable, there's no keyframing. As you would have just seen, you can get things like this, or this even. This is the next scene. I'll show you these animations now. This is a much more complex formula. I don't really understand it myself. I just made it up, but I think that's probably a lot of what most people do with the formula tool. As long as you can understand the basics, I think you should be okay to get by. But yeah, this is just with some simple lights. There's no anti-aliasing on that, so it's a bit rough around the edges and low resolution, but hey. Well, let's get to the tutorial. I'll show you each individual scene. For the moment though, I am going to close all, and I don't want to save. So we've got a fresh start. Do apologise, yes I am a smoker. That's a cigarette. Okay, so the first one I'm going to show you is the entangled one. So we've got 3 different types of formulas. So you've got the one in here, which is the Spline Formula. We'll need one of those anyway, so we'll bring that in. Then we've got the Deformer formula, which if we just quickly drop that in there and play, it does have an effect just on that little spline there. But we'll talk more in depth about that shortly. And then we've got the Effector formula. Now this affects things like the cloner and text, but I'll talk more in detail about each one of these as the tutorial goes on. So let's remove these for a second. I just want the spline one, which I've deleted by mistake, never mind. Okay, and I'm going to get my little formula pad up, because I can't remember these complex formulas. I will give you a copy or a link to this document here, which is where I'm actually getting these complex formulas from once it opens on my computer. It's in French and English. It's made by a Frenchman, but yeah, I'm going to be playing with this one here. If you've seen any of my other work, I've got a double infinity design. I quite like the concept. So I'll be working with this formula here, but I will put these details in there and a link to this document here so you can use them yourself. But for the moment I'll just quickly type in some details. 200 times sin open statement t times pi close statement. That's on the x. Now on the y, it's nice simple, 20 times t, and then on the z-axis 400 times cos open statement time times pi times 8 close statement. Okay, now we've got that. Now we need to change the T minimum and T maximum. So for this we want to go to 20 on the T minimum and minus 4 on the T maximum, and change the samples to 51. Okay, and now as you can see we've got that sort of infinity shape. Put on cubic interpolation, and there you go, you can see the same sort of design as you saw in this here. I'm going to close that now because it's using too much memory, my poor computer. But yeah, so now if we've got this, I'm actually going to make this editable, but before I do that I'm going to go to interpretate points and change this to 12 just to give me more points, make it a little bit smoother. And then I'm going to click on the formula. Now I've got the data in it, and press C on it, and that will go into point mode. So now as you can see you've got the two ends. Now we don't want the ends, we actually want it to be linking to each other from end to end. So if we take this one and this one out and then close spline, now we need to go back one more, so we'll take this one out as well. As you can see it's passing through the centre, so now that's an infinite loop. Now if we get the bend tool and keep it on this axis, if we get the bend tool or the bend deformer and drop that on the formula and make it fit to parameters and change this to 360, get a perfect loop of it. It's gone a bit skew-ish there. I fear I may have deleted one too many points, so I'm just going to go back quickly with the Control and Z. Okay, and then I'm going to put the bend in first so I can gauge how many points I should be deleting. So we'll close that now, and I will then fit to parameters 360. I actually quite like that. It's looping around there quite nicely. I'm going to leave that like that. Okay, so select them together. Now we need to rotate so it sits a little bit straight. Okay, now that's just using the formula spline. Now it's quite an interesting shape. You can't actually see anything at the moment, but I'll just make it visible. Bring this down to 10 centimeters. Yeah, that looks small enough. Okay, now if you bring sweep nerves into the action, drop them both in there. There you get that nice 3D shape. Now at the moment it's not animatable. We'll change this to 30 frames because that's the default cycle of the Formula tools. So as you can see, nothing's really happening at the moment. But if we bring in a Formula Deformer now and also drop that in the Formula Spline within the sweep nerves, we already get a nice little animation. Now my computer's going to slow down when I go into the next stage, so what I'm going to do is go up here, put it on quick shading, and also put it on low detail. Now it does make it look a bit rough around the edges, but it does actually speed it up. So for the tutorial I'm just going to leave it like this. So now what we want to do to this, just quickly, on one of those videos I showed you, it was growing out from a point with the light. I did that just by keyframing the end growth, or you could do it with the start growth, whichever. You do that by holding control and clicking on this little node here. It will change red and it puts in the marker down here. Change to the point where you want it to end, start, whichever, and then change this figure to 0 as it disappears, and then hold control again and click on the node. Now if we play it through, it will slowly disappear, or very fast, as the case may be. But yeah, that's how I made it grow. You may want to do more frames, but just for the tutorial at the moment I'm going to leave it like that. So then what I did with this, to make it even more random, because if we put this in a cloner now, a radial cloner we want, so mode radial, radius on 200 I believe. Now if we drop the sweep nerves into that, we get this interesting shape. Now I want to put it on X and to Z, I think, yeah, that'll do. Now if we play this, they're all going to be in sequence. Now it looks cool, but I'm sure you want it to be a little bit more random than that. So what I did, I'm just going to increase this to 9, so multiples of 3, and then I'm going to duplicate the sweep nerves within the cloner. So now we've got 3 stacked. Now if we go to the individual formulas here, now you can see the size is just set as default, which was 400. So it doesn't matter which order you do this in, this is entirely up to you. But if we change this to 200 on each one, and then the next one will change to 100. Now if we play it through, as you can see they're all animating at different points. Now because it's multiples of 3, there is duplicates in there, but it doesn't look as so much like it is duplicated. But yeah, I think you'll agree that's quite a nice effect. And what you can also do is, let's go back to this top one, change the effect to the Z-axis, and then you'll see it will be going backwards and forwards as well. So now we'll close these, and then we'll bring the other formula effector in. So make sure you've got your cloner selected, and you'll see the effector appear here. So we'll go to mode graph, effector, formula. You can see it already has a dramatic effect on it. That's a bit, you may like that, but I think that's a bit over the top for me personally. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the position down to 5 on each axis. So any little bit of movement there, I'm we're going to take the scale down to 0.1 and tick absolute. So there's only a little bit of growth movement coming out of it. And I'm also going to put a couple of degrees on each one of the rotation, just to make it look even more random than it was. So now then, what we can then do, so we've got this nice effect, slow detail. Like I said, I'll increase it quickly. If these don't look as smooth as you'd like them to be, you can just go into each one of the formulas here and just increase the number of the interpolation points, and it will get much smoother. And it adds more points for the effect to affect it. As you can see, my computer really does slow down once I do that. So there you go, that's the first formula effect. I don't think there's anything else to show you. I can quickly show you the material I made. It's extremely basic but very effective. Firstly, go to the colour and just drop it onto the black. And then we go to luminance. Fresnel, whatever you want to call it. I always go for my customary baby blue. I just love this colour. Bring this dark black mode back to about 50%. Leave that like that. Get that nice little halo around it. We'll drop that on there. Get a nice little neon effect. And it doesn't take too long to render each one of these frames, as you can see. If you, as I have on some of my other videos, I put depth of field on that. That adds more of effects, makes it more pretty. But yeah, it's obviously takes a lot longer to render then. The depth of field adds to the render time, but that's entirely up to you, depends what sort of effect you want. But hey, that's the first one done. So I'm just going to close this now. No, I don't want to save it. I will give you the project files that I've already saved, the tutorial ones here, in a download, so you can use what I originally made up to show you. Okay, so the next one was, I can't even remember what the next one was. Will you remind me? Oh yeah, okay, I remember now. So we'll close this again quickly. What I did with this one, so we've got two primitives. We'll bring those in, make these 10 centimeters on the sphere, and we want to make this 10 by on the x-axis, 50 on the y-axis, 10 on the z-axis. So you get that little thing in the center, and then we're going to bring in the cloner again. Drop these two in the cloner, doesn't matter what order at this point. We'll go to objects, we'll make it radial. It's a bit strange. We'll take the distance up to about 200 and count to about 100. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, so we've already got that nice effect. It's not animated yet, but it soon will be. So again, with the effector here, if we bring this in, as you can see, it's already having a nice animated effect on it. Now I don't like it disappearing like that, and that's down to the scale here, so we'll tick absolute, and then there you go, they don't actually disappear, they just get larger and smaller. Now if we put a little bit of rotation in here, what did I put, 5 I believe, on each one. It's moving backwards and forwards. I don't believe on the first one I put any position on it, So there you go, it's a nice little effect. If you put a similar to material to what I did on the last one on there, I'll just quickly create it. Oh, no, we don't want that. Doesn't really matter, but I like the Fresnel one. All it is a gradient tool. Okay, there we go. If we drop this one here. Very nice effect, and it renders extremely quickly. There you go, instant render. You do that over 90 frames, which is usually 3 seconds, depending on what your frame rate is. You've already got yourself a nice little backdrop for some text or something in After Effects, sorry. But I'll give you more of a demonstration here for like what I showed you previously. In the other video, we'll change the colour to blue, and we'll drop these on each colour independently, or each primitive independently, so you get a different effect. As that rotates, that will change because of the Fresnel effect on the edges. But then what we can do is we can bring in another cloner, and then what we do with this, we also put this on radial. I think we want it on 3, and then we'll drop the other cloner into that cloner, and then you get that nice little effect there. It's fully loopable, as I said, and it's definitely quite an interesting design. You could also use that as a backdrop for a logo, I guess. You can make this reflective, or you could make it smooth like this. But yeah, that looks quite nice. So now if we go to the effectors again and drop the previous formula that's affecting the first cloner tool into the second one, we get this nice little effect here. So it's duplicating that same thing. Obviously that's a bit much because it's over that frame rate. So what I'm going to do is actually remove this from here, and then I'm going to bring in a new one, Formula one. There you go. But I'm going to take the position off, and I'm going to take the scale off, and just use the rotation. So put these on 15 each. Oh, it's going so quick, my apologies. And there you go. You could use that as a wheel, I guess, for a spaceship. Nice and consistent. I don't know. Use it as a backdrop for some text. Put some text in there that look quite nice. But the great thing about this is that it gives you an instant animation, so if you don't want to do any laborious keyframing, you can use these formula tools. Now I should probably speak about the time a little bit. So you've got 30 frames per second, so your frame rate needs to be taken into account here. So if I reduce this, which is times time, to 180, which is obviously half of 360. Now if we animate this, or judder, but if we take it up to 60 frames, so think of it as dividing this, timesing this, and that will give you a full loop of the formula tool. You do that if you want to slow it down. You can go quite dramatic with it. So if we take this down to 45, and we take this up, put on 180 for the moment, we won't play the full thing, but as you can see it's got a slow rotation on it. So the first effector is going at 360 speed, but the second formula effector is going at 45, so it's got a slow rotation. but obviously you're going to have to gauge out how many frames that 45 is. Off the top of my head I don't know what the division is for the multiplication, but so yeah, you get some very nice interesting effects with barely any actual object within the scene. And obviously you can put this on render instances as well to reduce things a little bit more. It doesn't always work brilliantly with the light and that, so just take that into consideration. But doing something basic like this, you're just going to get a very, very nice effect. Okay, now the next one, I'm just going to explain to you because it's using quite a complex formula which I've just made up for that tutorial specifically. So it wasn't all some other guys at work. So what we'll do is we'll just close this and we will open recent documents, formula code 3. Okay, so we'll go back to frame 1. You can see it's flat, and we'll just quickly turn the lights off. I don't know why I did it that way, but hey ho. See, it's just a flat scene. But now if I press play, you'll see the formula tool's affecting this plane, which has got 2000 polygons. So very highly detailed, and if you, it's a bit juddery there, but if you drop that into subdivision surface, it gets even smoother. But I'm not going to play that because my computer will say nasty things to me. I don't want my computer to say nasty things to me. So here's the formula here. Now I'm going to copy this just to show you the default one. So this is what we're taking into account. We're along the Z-axis, so it's shaking backwards and forwards now because my camera is set to well, it's not quite the horizon line, but almost the horizon line. You can't see there's an axis, but yeah. So as I said, if you play it, you get this interesting effect, and it's growing from the centre, because that's where the formula is sitting. Now if we move this down or up, you could probably make a nice wake for a boat out of that. Looks a bit pixelated there, but yeah, I actually quite like that. You could use that as a background of some promotional thing or something like that. Very unique, almost very random. If we click back into the subdivided surface, I think the anti-aliasing's on as well. We'll turn that off, speed up the render time. But yeah, very interesting background sort of effect. So the formula is sin, open statement twice. And then U times T times pi, close one of the statements, and then you want to times it by 1. You can put decimal points in there as well. Times by 1. Now obviously 1 times 1 is 1, but for the effect of the formula this actually counts. And then you want a close statement and then times all of that by 0.1, so the speed of the animation will be very slow. If we increase this to 1 rather than 0.1, it will go much quicker. And you can also see it's a lot more deeper in effect if we come out of that camera angle. Very jagged. A very nice effect in itself, and that's generated with just the formula tool and that simple formula there. Now if we bring the formula tool back in, that's the original formula. So all I've changed in that is I've added to here, whereas U times or U plus T, so it's taking the U axis plus times. So sin here, I don't quite know what sin means, but I know what the statements mean. So you open the statement twice and it's u times t. So the u-axis times time times pi. If you've never heard of pi, you need to go and read a maths book. But then you close in one of the statements to then, rather than making it a continuous sequence over 30 frames or whatsoever, you're making it start from nothing and gradually building up to it with this statement at the end. I'm going to reduce this back down to 0.1. 0.1, it won't work otherwise. And then we'll show you what happens here. So if we change this end one to a 5, my computer might not like this. As you can see, it's a lot smoother at the edges here. But yeah, as I said, you could create a wake for a boat or something from that. Looks quite interesting. And that's with no lighting on at all. Add a bit of light to the scene. Ooh. A very nice, interesting sort of background, and not very much work for it. So there you go. I think I've covered everything. If you don't believe so, or if you'd like anything explained in a little bit more detail, either send myself a message, or as I said, I will provide you with that PDF document and a link to where I got it from, because I can't take the credit for it really. I'm just making a tutorial for you guys to choose to watch the tutorial or read the document. It's up to you, but it took me some time to find a lot of information about using the formula tool, so I thought I'd help you guys out as much as you've helped me out. So anyways, that's enough jibber jabber from me. Peace.